fine because we are just getting there almost.
Yep.
And
so first things first is inside of Netacad. All right. I need to make sure it is actually turned on under the assessment center. You should see a course feedback, which I am turning on right now. So this course feedback, like all the other classes, has to be on in order for you to, or has to be done in order for you to take the actual written final. Okay. And then you will also have this is the written final right here. It is your final exam. And so I am turning it on. I can only turn it on for 7 days at a time. So I'm going to turn it on for the maximum of 7 days. I'm going to give you 4 hours to take it. And there. So that is the exam, the final written exam. So that is your not your hands-on, but your written exam. That is inside of netacad.com. So log into Netacad, go to your CCNP class, go down to the bottom, take that exam. That's your final exam. Okay. Now, your hands-on final exam is, you can actually upload it, but you don't actually have to upload it. I'm going to have you do your hands-on final exam on NetLabs. And inside of NetLabs, you'll notice if you go into NetLabs and go to do a reservation in our CCNP class, KFC, CCNP ENCORE, there are 2 possible hands-on exams. Just do the first one. You don't have to do both. Do the first one. Okay. This exam must be completed in Netacad. All right. And you'll notice you can't preview it. Actually, I can't preview it. But this exam will be done inside of Netacad, and inside of NetLabs. You do not have to upload anything. You just have to complete it, and then I will check it.
can you tell us at least the topic, because so many topics that's my head spinning around.
This one is
it's everything.
This one's not bad. It's not bad. It basically, this one's like multi-year OSPF and ether channel and some spanning tree.
Oh, okay. Okay.
This one's not bad.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah.
Well, SPF is cool.
Yeah, it's not a bad one. This scenario won't kill you. Okay. I am going to actually go ahead and just do, let's see, I'm going to do a quick assignment. Now, let me go in here and change this. I'll put this in here. So if you get done, all right, before May 3rd, okay, this class ends on May 3rd. So if you get finished and get the hands-on skills assessment done by May 3rd, you can put it in that upload right there down at the bottom inside of Canvas. All right. I also need to warn you, on May 3rd, when this class ends, you will lose access to everything in Canvas. So if there's anything in this class you want, for instance, the YAML files, the revised documents, all of the pre-configs that I gave you for the class, okay? How to do your CE credits when you pass this class. You need to download it and get it in your hands before May 3rd. Okay. If you don't, you will lose access on May 3rd. All these PowerPoints, go ahead and grab them if you want them. Okay. Here's the initial config files that I gave you for every single lab. Grab them now, because after May 3rd, you will not have access to it. That's the only negative of using Canvas as our main platform. The drop dead end date for you to finish this class is, for me, is May 30th. If you're not done by May 30th, you can't move forward to NARSI. And so just be aware of that. This class has to be finished by that date. I wish I could give everybody NRSI for free, but I cannot. We do have it this summer. If you go to our webpage and you look at our ITC schedule, you will see that we have the following classes this summer. They are $195.50 a piece. So if you want to move on and get the next class in the sequence, you can take ENARSI. If you are just wanting to use this to renew your CCNA, then this class will more than give you enough credits to renew your CCNA for the next 3 years. But remember to grab that document on how to do that right here. So what do you need to do to finish class? 1, finish labs. 2, finish module or the exams. Are basically quizzes. They're more quizzes than anything else. 3, finish the written final in netacad.com. 4, finish the skills assessment in NetLabs Plus. Okay. Somebody had a chat. Let me see what chat says. Over here.
Professor, it's 25 labs total, you know, and exam is also around 20-25, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, I don't think there's quite that many exams, but maybe there is. It's not anything. Those exams, you can blow through those fairly quickly. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 exams. So 11 total exams. Okay. So be aware that's what you got to do to get this. And if you finish this, then you will you'll be accredited, and that will give you I think it's 48 or more CEUs. I think it's even more than that. Let's pull that up and look at it. We'll go back over this real quickly just so you're aware. Again, remember, if you complete this class, you're able to get CEUs. You will get to renew your CCNA, you've got to have at least 30 CEUs or CEs, not CEUs, CEs. And CCNP Enterprise gets you 64 of them. And then this tells you exactly where to go and where to submit it. You cannot submit this until you are accredited, and it must be done within 90 days of the course completion. If you do not do it within 90 days, I cannot help you. Neither can Cisco. It must be done within 90 days. If not, sorry, you had to retake the class. So once you get accredited and I get you accredited, make sure that you do this and get it done so that you get your CEs for it. Okay. Now, this is not the CEUs from Stanley. Stanley is going to send you, or you're going to be able to print a little certificate that says you get 8 CEUs from Stanley for your own professional development. Those CEUs are not these. Yeah, you could skip to another. How do I complete lab 15.1.2?
Yeah, 15.1.2 is not in
oh, okay.
NetLabs.
Let me go look at it.
But I'm willing to skip it if I.
Yeah, skip it. I probably shouldn't have signed. Did I sign
Yes,
it?
it is not there. Skip it and do another one. That's what I did.
Yeah, I'm sorry. If I did that, I shouldn't have put it in the class. If I did put it in there, 15.1.2, I apologize.
There are many more than 25 labs.
Oh,
so
yeah. Yeah.
You just choose, pick.
Oh, yeah. I'm sorry. Just skip that one. Or
Yeah,
you can do it on your own equipment. Or you could do it inside of you could technically do it inside of
What do you think? Packet tracer work?
I don't know if it will, because I don't think the NTP stuff's there.
Ah,
I don't think NTP is in the iOS of the packet tracer version. But just skip it. That's fine. Just skip it and do a different one. I mean, it's basically just the NTP and setting up NTP masters and all. So it's really not that, it's not that wild of an exam or of a lab. Sorry about that. questions? Everybody's clear on what you need to do? All right.
Professor, if we lose the canvas, how we submit the labs after May 3rd?
After May 3rd, you're gonna have to put them into an email and send them to me.
Okay,
Yep, after
We
May
can-
3rd, and I will still have NetLabs, so I can go into NetLabs and look. So you're just gonna have to put them into an email and send them to me.
okay.
Yep.
Okay, thank you.
Unfortunately, yeah, like I said, that's the negative of using Canvas, but it's a whole lot easier than doing what we did before. All right, everybody, I want to do this lab. I want to actually walk through this lab with us, with the whole class. I need to do, one thing I want to show you is inside of, why did that go back in there? It should stay as an open window. I'm gonna put it over there. All right, so what we're going to do is we're going to look at taking NetMiko and a Python module to configure a router. So we've got this PC with a CCNP VM on it. We've got a switch and a router, but the first thing we got to do is configure the router and switch. It's pretty simple here. I'm just going to do this. Actually, I'm just going to copy this. I'm going to get on that part right there. So I'm going to copy, go in the router. I'm gonna drop it into config mode myself, and then I'm gonna do paste to terminal, and then you can just do a Control V, paste it, and that pastes in the config. And it does its thing. Okay, hit enter. I'll click in there and then hit enter, and then I'm going to do right. So that has been done. So now R1 is complete. Now we got to go into switch. Let's do this right here. Copy this. So again, go into global config. I'll go ahead and do that. And then I go to paste to host, and you'll notice this is one way we can always paste things to the terminal and make it pretty easy on ourselves. You'll notice we were setting up the router to be a DHCP server. I will tell you this, I did a show IP int brief because because it did not bring my interfaces up. Gig 1011, I don't believe it brought up. No, it did not. It didn't do it right. So let's do this. Config T int G1011. Like a type. Another shut. And then 0123. No shut. Okay, so all the other interfaces are shut down other than those. Do it right. All right. So now we've got our two devices configured the way they need to be configured. We'll go to our PC. And on the PC, you will see that there is a thing called PCX virtual machine. If you double click that, it will start a virtual machine, basically a Hyper-V. And we'll click start. And we will turn on this Hyper-V box that we have here now. And this is the CCNP virtual machine that's booting up. And we do need to make sure that we've got an IP address on it that matches the IP address on the router. So let's go over and do a quick check on the router again. Do a Control Z, show IP int brief. It should have 1.1 on it, which it does. Go to our PC. And eventually this thing should load. Yep, Ubuntu box. It's funny because an Ubuntu box it's made to look a little bit like Windows. So. Oh, nope, this is a different one. I didn't use that one. So our student and, oh, I might want to spell it right. And then STUDENTPASS. So this thing's got the tools on it to allow us to do the lab itself. But we need to test connectivity after we look at our IP address. Let's go to our terminal. How many of you have done this lab? Any of you done it yet? It's a fun little lab.
Yeah, I did it just this afternoon. I did the other Python one this morning.
11. Okay. Uh-huh.
And you know, I just knew that Python one would take 12 minutes, but it was 16 pages and it took
Yeah.
I had to hit the extra time on the reservation a little bit. Of course, I had kids in the classroom, so I had to stop and lecture, but
Yeah.
this one was fun. I enjoyed being able to customize loop back and go through those Python configs.
Definitely. So what I'm doing now is just establishing this SSH. It's fun too to kind of, when you go through it, then play with it a little bit and see what you can do. Because I think that's an important thing is to do it. You'll notice it's going to prompt you to accept the key there, and then you're going to log in as Cisco, and then Cisco 1, 2, 3, bang, and now you can say I'm in R1. So I'm basically improving what I've got to prove here before I ever try to use NetMiko to connect to the router is we got to prove we can ping it and we can get to it with SSH, because we're going to be providing these credentials to allow us to be able to get access to the device. Now, the other thing we need to do here is you'll notice it says start NetMiko, but we need to start idle. So we're going to go over here to idle and just ignore the updater because it won't work anyway because we don't. But here's idle. So we're going to start idle. And we're going to import the NetMiko. So we're going to import the module for NetMiko. So import NetMiko. That lets it import it into Python itself. And then we're going to create a new file. Okay. And we're going to do file save as, and we're going to call it NetMiko -script.py. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to end up creating a variable. All right, so we're going to create the NetMiko module has a connect handler function, and we're going to use that to connect to an iOS XE device. So the device type will identify what type it is. In this case, it's going to be a Cisco iOS device. We also are going to talk about the host. That's who we're going to connect to, which in this case will be 192.168.1.1 or the router's interface. And then what port we're going to connect to. And in this case, you'll notice we're going to connect to port 22, which is SSH. So the first thing we need to do is in here, we've got to do from NetMiko. And this is what I forgot to do the first time I did this lab. I forgot to import the connect handler. And of course, it would not work because it didn't have what it needed. But then we can then put in SSH CLI space equals connect handler open. All right. So device underscore type. This is telling it NetMiko what type of device it's going to be connecting to. In this case, it is a Cisco underscore iOS device. Then we're going to look at host. This is going to give it the IP address of what it's going to, and that would be the IP address of the interface on the router, 168.1.1. It's the one we're going to in this particular instance. The port is going to be 22. Notice port is not surrounded in a quote, single quote. Username equals Cisco, which is the same one we used a minute ago to access it via SSH. And then we use our Cisco 123 pound or bang. And then we're going to end it. All right. So now we're going to save the script. File save.
Kelly, you got an extra comma. I don't know if it matters, but
Where is it at?
the after password 123.
Yep, that does matter. That would definitely. Well, let's run it and you'll see it fail. That would. Yep. See that? Found a end of string. So there is a problem with it. So let's open it back up. Open up the old NetMiko. Let's fix it. There we go. Fix it. Now, there we go. Now save it. File, save. Run module. All right. Now, it looks like nothing happened, right? But if we type this, if we do output, let's go back in there. Got to set a variable to hold it. Nothing, looks like nothing happened. It ran though. Looks like it ran. Let me open it back up. It's actually running. Let's go back in here now and open up. Well, what is happening? It looks like I've lost access to my. Hold on a second, Al. My shell's locked up. Let's try again. Make sure I didn't have an error, which is very possible with my typing. Okay, everything looks right there. So let's run this thing. I do have a problem. So end line, something, I've missed something somewhere. Let's go back and look at it again. Open. All right. So from that Miko import handler, got that. SSL CLI equals connect handler. Device type equals Cisco iOS. That's correct.
Yeah, Kelly, at Cisco _iOS, you got a single quote.
Yeah,
and a
double quote and single quote gets me every time. There it is. So file save. That's right.
I can't take credit. That came from chat.
Oh, well, thank you. All right, so we're good now. It's running. All right, so it's now running. So we're going to open this up and we're actually going to start a new, let's open this one. We need to make a variable to hold our output. So go to the bottom here, do output equals SSH CLI dot send underscore command show IP. Oops. Interesting how, notice how you can use shortened commands. So we set that variable, save it again. I'll save, run. All right, so we got that. Now let's do output. And you'll see we got a traceback. Output not defined. Oh, must open it back up. Well, I'm having all kind of trouble. Spelling. Oh, yeah, I see it. Output. There we go. And you'll notice there it is. There's the output of the command. But you'll also notice that it's kind of hard to read because it's jumbly all over the place. So we can actually now do print here, squiggly, squiggly, \n dot format.
Those are curlies, not squigglies.
They're technically braces, but you know, I call them squigglies. There. So that cleans it up. So now we can actually see. So here's the cool thing though. We took the Python script. We connected via SSH over to our device. We then ran a show IPent brief. And now we're looking at the interfaces on that router one. So instead of having to go to the command line and running show IPent brief, okay, we can do it programmably. Now, even cooler than that is, imagine if you had this set up to where you had the ability to go to all the devices in your network. You could pull this information and have it all in a centralized database. Notice another thing I really like about this. It tells me the status of the interfaces. So if I was troubleshooting a problem, I would be able to know what interfaces were up and which ones were down. Now, of course, I have to be able to get to the device. So if the interface I was troubleshooting was down and I couldn't get to the device, then I'm kind of out of luck. All right. So now we're going to actually send a command instead of just doing that. So we're going to actually put this a set of commands called config commands into our NetMiko Python script. So let's go over here, open up the script again, go down here, and we're going to do config. Got to type right. Come on. Config. I can't type. Config underscore commands. All right. Now we're going to take int space loop back 1 IP add 10.1.1.1 255.255.255.0. Okay, no problem, Tamer. Description. AFC, that's my initials. Loop back. Do not put a thing there. All right, so now we got to do a new variable to hold this. So set config equals SSHCLI dot send underscore config underscore set config underscore commands. Okay, so that's going to hold that. So now let's save this. All right, so we got to do this too here. Let's see, print. Let's put this in here. So print. Oops. By the way, if you do mistype things in here, it will not work and it will bark at you, and then you'll have to spend some time doing troubleshooting. Okay. And I know this is not riveting class, y'all, but it's actually pretty cool when it works. Plus, you get to see my horrible typing. IP brief. And so what we should end up with here is an actual interface being created that will show all of the things we just did. All right. There. Now, so let's save it and run it. File, save.
Wait. One more round bracket there on the last line.
Oh, yep. Thank you. Yep, it didn't close for me till I did that. Thank you. Save, run module. And boom. It says restarting. Okay. So I got an error right there. Send command, show IP and brief. Oh, it tried though. Look, it tried to do it. Ah, typing. Look at that. File. Now, notice how I can see. Look what I did. I named it wrong. So let me go back in here. If I could type it all, y'all, this would be a whole lot easier. Int loopback 0. And now let's run this thing. So what we should get is a new loopback created. And maybe not. Maybe I did it wrong again. But it looks like it actually did create the loopback, but it did not output the show IP and brief at the end. So we'll look at that in a second. But look, you will notice if we go over to the router, I'll use SSL. Okay. Notice it worked. It did create the loopback. And I truly cannot type today. So y'all just have to forgive me for being unable to type. I could have pre-made these, but yep, I did do SSL instead of SSH. Don't ask me why. I'm a doofus. Now, actually, I'm gonna change this and I'm gonna make this loopback 50. I'm gonna make a new loopback and I'm gonna put a different IP address on it. So you'll see a new loopback being created. So let's save this and run it. And we should get a new loopback now. That's loopback 50. Here in a second. And boom, there we go. So once you actually put in the right things and do it correctly, you will see. So we now have a program that can go in and add loopbacks. So this is an example of a pretty simple program, when you type it in correctly, that has that ability. Now imagine how powerful this could be. If it'll do any command, we should be able to make it actually send the command like turn on OSPF and setting the network statements for it and all of those. So this is just a very basic lab that shows the ability to do programmability from a very simple idle shell or idle using Python. It was very important, though, that we tested our connectivity first. We had to make sure we had access from the device that we're programming from, the PC, over to our router to make sure we were able to get connectivity. Because if we hadn't, there's no way this would have worked. Questions? Can you see how useful this is and how neat it is that students, this is something that, honestly, if I was just teaching a lab on, if I was teaching Python, if I was teaching just a Python class, I would do this lab in my classroom so that students could see a real world application of Python. And then that way you wouldn't have to, they don't have to just see, you know, just programming for programming's sake. Here is Python being used to do real world tasks. Questions?
Kelly, I love the idea of doing real world Python. How did you fire up Putty? Because you ran it through Linux there.
Yeah, Putty was in this virtual box, so it's just right here. It's already loaded.
All right.
Yeah, so it was already loaded inside of this machine. By the way, you can download this machine in the this virtual machine. The CCNP VM is actually available in the instructor resources. Once you finish this class, you'll be able to download it and get this PC. Then you could stick this PC in a virtual box on your machine and then have access to this virtual machine that's already pre-made, this Hyper-V virtual machine, which is this Ubuntu. And it has all these tools on it. It has Postman on it. It has idle on it. Has text editor, has all this stuff pre-built on it. Because your other lab you've got here that you may have already done too, and you talked about doing it earlier today. But the lab on Postman or the lab on basic Python script and the netcomp and restcomp, these use Postman to do, if you'll look at this one, let's go back and just look at the lab. This, if you look at the lab, it's got the same setup, and it's using that same PC. But what we end up doing here is instead of using Python, we go in here and we use RESTful APIs, and we have to turn it on so that the router will listen for it. And then we allow the connection with RESTful APIs using Postman. We do GET request. We pull off using that same SSH, not SSL, but SSH connectivity. And we're able to pull this information and look at it in a JSON format. And then we can send and receive JSON info. And then we can actually even create the same thing. We can create a new interface. This is using a JSON, a RESTful interface call to create this loopback one instead of using Python. So this is in the body of it, and this is actually what it does. It creates the same thing. So you'll notice this is just multiple ways of doing the same thing, in this case using Postman. Whoa. That ain't good. Y'all still here?
Yep, I still got you.
Okay. I don't know what in the world happened there.
Yes.
That's weird. Okay. Yeah. I guess it just want to knock me off for some reason. Okay. Any questions on those? Because that's a neat thing. I wanted to show it to you. I know we'd had some folks who kind of had a little bit of trouble with the lab, but it's an pretty easy lab. All three of the labs that are in here do the same thing. They all basically have you create that loop back, but using different methods. Okay. Is this the one you did earlier, the Python script? Is that the one that took you so long?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Well, and the reason is because it's a very long Python. It goes through Python as a basic, and then it actually gets into writing some pretty decent Python code. And you got to make sure you do it correctly. Technically, I guess if you could copy and paste, it'd be nice, but it won't copy and paste into that VM, unfortunately. I wish it would, but it won't.
Yeah, that step 3 was fun, and I wish I had more time to do the challenge here. I had sort of bookmarked it that I wanted to come back and attempt that challenge there.
Yeah, that's a good one to do, is come back and just do it, and just just schedule it and do just the challenge itself. Yeah. But you look at the way it's doing it, it actually tells you, it sets you up on how to do it. So it explains how to do it. The open device R.
Well, the challenge includes opening files in particular ways. And
Yep.
my curriculum doesn't really stress that topic with the students. So that's something out of my wheelhouse, but I'm excited to get it.
I will say this, one of the things, once you get these, be willing to take these in your regular classroom and use them in your Python classes or in your programming classes. Or honestly, folks, these make very good labs, especially to use in CCNA 3. Pull these labs into CCNA 3 and have your students, because you'll notice it only takes literally, what is it? One PC and one router and one switch. That's all it takes to do the lab. So for most of these, you can set them up pretty easily and get them done. And you'll have access to that virtual machine, so you won't have to worry about that. So you'll be able to load that virtual machine and have it locally. So even if you don't plan on actually teaching CCNP, this is a great way to use the materials for your CCNA 3 class. Right. Same thing with these site-to-site VPNs, by the way. We don't really do a lab, so to speak. We've got one, I think, in Packet Tracer, but you can pull one of these over and use it, and even the GRE tunnel lab, pull it over and use it, because I don't think anything in those concepts are above what the students can do. And especially if you use the pre-made configs I gave you, and you just have your students dump those in first, or you can have them put them in there, and then that way they get more experience loading configs onto their devices. All right. Well, folks, that's all I had for today. It was a pretty short class, just trying to show you those things. I wanted to make sure you're aware of what you need to finish up. Class officially ends. Official end is May 3rd. Okay. Now, I am going to, I got to go to doctor next Monday. So I will not be in town. So I'm not going to have class next Monday, but I will have class the following Monday in case you have any questions. So I am going to have class on the 10th. Well, not 10th, on the next Monday after next week, but not next Monday. So be aware when you see a cancellation for next week's class, I'm not canceling the one after that. It'll just be for next week. Then I'll do one more meeting the week after, and then you'll be free to just get done with everything. You'll be on your own to finish up until May 30th. Okay. How many of you are planning to take the next class to get the full CCNP route? By the way, I had 2 students contact me today who are students looking for CCNP ENCORE classes. So if you happen to be teaching those, especially if you're going to be teaching those online, send me an email and I will try to send those students your way, because right now we don't teach them to students. We only teach them to you. We only teach them to instructors. Okay. So any questions? I'm going to stop the recording.